Imagine a world where the very structure of global finance just shifts, where you have this whole new class of like digital creditors popping up,
Hmm.
and the United States finds, well, a really innovative, maybe even strange way to handle its national debt.
Yeah, that's quite a picture.
So, in this deep dive, we're digging into a really speculative but honestly fascinating idea. It comes from a recent YouTube video transcript.
Right, the one titled America's Future, Pi Network Pioneers Leading the Digital Dollar Revolution.
Exactly that one. And our mission today is, to explore these pretty bold claims about how the U.S. might actually integrate the Pi network ecosystem into its financial future.
And it's important to frame this right. The source itself calls it a predictive strategic analysis. So it's suggesting this massive transformation in how America deals with its debt and maybe keeps its financial top spot.
Okay, so let's get to the core prediction then. The central claim seems to be that the U.S. isn't actually planning to just, cancel its debts.
No, not cancel.
But instead, it's going to strategically change who holds the debt, which, that alone is huge.
It is, and what's really specific, and maybe catches you off guard, is who they predict these new bondholders will be,
Yeah.
the Pi pioneers.
The users of the Pi network. Seriously.
That's the claim. The video apparently uses some strong visuals, too, like America physically replacing its old creditors. You've got bonds pictured as this huge mountain,
Okay.
and then you see the Pi network pioneers holding this symbol for Global Consensus Value, GCV, and they're positioned as the new creditors, like digitally native creditors.
Wow. Okay, that's a very specific vision. A digital community replacing, nation states and huge funds as primary U.S. creditors.
It implies a complete reorchestration, really.
So, given the sheer scale of U.S. debt, we're talking trillions, how does the source suggest this could even work? How could a decentralized group like the Pi Pioneers realistically take on that role?
Well, the analysis suggests the U.S. would essentially adopt the Pi network ecosystem, make it part of a new financial policy.
A policy aimed at what? Just the debt.
Both combating the national debt and sort of leading a whole new global financial system.
Right.
Which brings us to, the how. How does this transformation supposedly happen?
Right.
The source is clear. The U.S. doesn't default on its sovereign debt in this scenario. No big crash like that.
Okay, so no default. Then what?
Instead, it will, and this is their phrase, strategically surround the value of the old traditional debts.
Strategically surround. What does that mean? Like devalue it indirectly?
It seems to imply making the old system less relevant, sort of overshadowed.
Yeah.
By building up this new parallel system based on Pi, the traditional debt, while still technically there, just matters less. It shrinks in importance compared to this booming Pi economy.
Without ever being formally canceled or defaulted on?
Exactly. While at the same time, it elevates this new global class of digital bondholders, the Pi pioneers.
Okay, let's talk about them then. Who exactly are these Pi pioneers in this context?
They're described basically as the network's users, spread across apparently more than 240 countries.
Wow, that's global.
Very global. And they possess, according to the source, years of contribution, trust, and digital interest just by being part of the Pi ecosystem.
So their engagement is the asset here.
Seems so. Their role as these new creditors is pretty unique. They're predicted to be participants in an accounting system based on this global consensus value, the GCV.
Okay, you mentioned GCV before. Can you break that down a bit? What is global consensus value, especially if you're not, deep in the Pi world?
Sure. So GCV, as the source seems to frame it, isn't about market price on exchanges like Bitcoin. It's more like a fixed internal value that the Pi community itself agrees upon for transactions within their network.
Like a collectively agreed peg, but internal.
Sort of, yeah. A baseline value set by consensus, not speculation.
Okay. And how does just using the network and agreeing on this value turn them into creditors of the U.S.? That's the leap I'm trying to grasp.
Right. It's not lending money. It's through their engagement. The source mentions signing smart contracts, participating in this new consensus model. And the key shift, the really fundamental change, is that the value, the credit they provide, isn't based on lending capital and earning interest. It's based on contribution.
Contribution.
Yeah.
So that's the core concept, replacing interest. What counts as contribution? Is it just mining Pi on your phone?
It seems broader than that. Yes, maybe basic participation counts, but the source also implies things like developing apps for the Pi ecosystem, running those supernodes we'll touch on, securing the network. Basically, anything that builds and strengthens the Pi infrastructure itself.
So it's like your economic standing, your creditworthiness in this new system is tied directly to how much you actively build or support the network.
That's the idea. It links engagement directly to economic value, moving away from just capital accumulation.
Which I suppose leads us to the why. Why would America, the center of the current financial system, even need such a radical, almost sci-fi sounding shift?
Well, the analysis argues it's becoming necessary. It points to some pretty serious problems with the current setup.
Like what? The usual suspect.
Pretty much. Unsustainable national debt is top of the list, obviously. Then risks from all the dollars issued out to emerging markets and asset bubbles domestically, driven by high speculation.
Okay, standard macroeconomic concerns.
Right. But the source frames it starkly. It says the existing dollar-based debt model is, quote, collapsing under its own weight.
Strong words.
Oh.
So how does shifting to a contribution-based system with GCV run by Pi pioneers supposedly fix, say, asset bubbles? Aren't crypto ecosystems known for speculation?
That's a fair point. The argument seems to be that because GCV is internally set by consensus and value is tied to contribution, it inherently discourages the kind of purely financial speculation that inflates bubbles in traditional markets. It grounds value in doing something for the network.
Interesting theory. And the risk from dollars in emerging markets.
The idea there, I think, is that if value moves towards this global network-based consensus, GCV, those markets become less vulnerable to the fluctuations and debt burdens tied specifically to the U.S. dollar. It potentially creates a more distributed global financial power base.
So in this analysis, Pi isn't just another crypto project. It's positioned as the solution.
That's exactly how the source presents it. It suggests Pi offers this alternative value and credit model, one not based on interest, which directly tackles those problems we just mentioned.
And it's all about rebuilding trust and value.
Yes, using principles like transparency and participation, which the force claims are sort of structurally present already within the Pi network. It's leveraging what's already been built in terms of community engagement.
And these Pi pioneers, they're not just passive users clicking a button. The source calls them digital stakeholders.
Right. Actively contributing things the U.S. could supposedly leverage. Their time, maybe some computing power, their verified identity potentially, and their trust in the system.
It also mentions companies running supernodes. What's that about?
Yeah, so supernodes are basically more powerful computers, like dedicated servers, that really anchor the network. They validate transactions, maintain the ledger's integrity. Running one is a significant contribution.
So that's a more intensive form of participation, along with things like, digital signatures, building apps, governance.
Exactly. All these activities, from individual participation to companies running nodes, build this ecosystem. And the article makes this pretty stunning claim.
Which is?
That the pioneers have already been acting like creditors, in a way, within their own decentralized economy. And that the U.S., by fostering this infrastructure, has effectively, now get this, manufactured a new class of voluntary global bondholders without issuing debt, by issuing infrastructure instead.
Wow. Okay. Creating creditors without issuing IOUs, that's a paradigm shift.
It's a very provocative idea.
And this all ties back to the future of the dollar itself, right? This isn't about replacing the dollar.
Correct. The conclusion isn't that the dollar dies. It's that the dollar gets reinvented.
Reinvented how? If the old bond system is being strategically surrounded.
The idea is the U.S. dismantles the traditional bond system not by attacking it, but by making it, well, irrelevant.
Irrelevant. How does that work for people or countries holding existing U.S. bonds?
The source doesn't detail that fallout explicitly, but the implication is that the focus shifts. The energy, the value, the coordination moves to this new Pi economy.
So the old bonds just wither on the vine.
Perhaps. Yeah. By integrating Pi as this global protocol using CCV, the U.S. keeps its central coordinating role. But the source says it's under new rules with new stakeholders, the pioneers, and a new balance of power.
And the definition of being creditworthy changes completely.
Totally. It's no longer about how much cash or traditional assets you have, but about your documented contribution to this new ecosystem.
So tying it all together, the U.S. doesn't need a messy default. It just needs to pivot, make the old debt system obsolete by championing this new one, and essentially appoint the Pi pioneers as its new digitally native creditor class.
That's the core argument laid out in the analysis. But again, it's crucial we remember the disclaimer in the source material itself.
Right, you mentioned that.
Yeah, it explicitly states this is a predictive strategic analysis, and importantly, results may differ from actual outcomes. It's speculation, a scenario.
Absolutely. Need to keep that context front and center. So, okay, we've just walked through a really speculative, definitely thought-provoking deep dive. This idea that a decentralized community, the Pi pioneers, could fundamentally change global finance and U.S. sovereign debt.
It's quite something. The real nugget here, I think, is the idea of a pivot instead of a collapse.
Yeah.
The U.S. finding a way to maintain leadership by adopting a radically different system, making its old debt less central without a formal default.
It really makes you wonder, what does it mean for the future, for value, for credit, even for what national sovereignty looks like if contribution, documented participation, actually replaces interest as the bedrock of a global financial system?
Yeah, definitely leaves you with something to chew on.